Imagine dropping a massive steel ship into the ocean. It weighs thousands of tons. Steel is heavy. So why doesn't it sink straight to the bottom? And here's the strangest part. A tiny piece of steel sinks, but a giant steel ship can float. So what is actually keeping this enormous machine above the water? The answer is buoyancy, and it all comes down to one simple idea. Take a solid block of steel and throw it into the water. It sinks. That's because steel is denser than water. So if ships are made mostly of steel, why don't they sink too? The secret isn't the steel, it's the shape. Look inside a ship. It's not a giant solid block of steel. Instead, the hull is mostly hollow. That hollow space is filled with air. So even though the ship contains a huge amount of heavy steel, the entire ship takes up a much larger volume. And that makes its average density lower. But there's something else happening. When the ship enters the water, it pushes water out of the way. And water pushes back. This upward force is called buoyant force. The more water the ship displaces, the greater the upward force. So the ocean is basically pushing upward on the ship. Eventually, the ship sinks just far enough into the water for the upward buoyant force to balance its weight. Downward, gravity pulls the ship down. Upward, buoyancy pushes the ship up. When these forces balance, the ship floats. Now imagine making the ship heavier. It sinks a little deeper. That means it displaces more water. More displaced water means more buoyant force. Eventually, the forces balance again. That's why even enormous ships can float. But now, imagine the hull is damaged. Water starts flooding into the ship. The air-filled space becomes smaller. The ship becomes heavier without increasing its volume very much. Its average density rises. The ship sinks deeper until eventually there isn't enough buoyant force to support its weight. And that's when the ship can sink. So the next time you see a giant ship floating on the ocean, remember, it's not floating because steel is light. It's floating because the ship's shape allows it to displace enough water to create enough buoyant force to support its enormous weight. A solid block of steel sinks, but shape that steel into a giant hollow ship, and suddenly thousands of tons of metal can float. That's the physics behind giant ships.